Hello again, this is John from Poor Man's Garage. I do believe this is video 12. I remember I was talking about this special tool to check the rod bolt stretch. We're at that point where I'm going to start putting the pistons and connecting rods into the block, but first you have to do is you have to record all your connecting rod bolts and before you can put the connecting rods in the block. Anyways, I want to show you how to do that, what the tool looks like. Okay, so that's the rod bolt tool right there. Here's my sheet that I started, 1 and 5. Like I said, they go together 1 and 5. So there's see, I consider this the outer. So I wrote out on the rod, so that's my outer bolt. This is my inner bolt. So and then you put it in the special gauge here, and then I read the number, whatever it reads. I mark it down in my chart, and then when I when I torque the connecting rods up on the block, I measure the stretch and make sure that it's where it's supposed to be according to the chart. Supposed to have 5 to 7. So anyways, that's what I'm doing. Anyways, so this is going to take time for me to do this. I'm not going to bore you guys with this, but I'm going to show you what the tool looks like. So that's the tool, and you can see there's the bolt in the tool. Let's see this. There's a connecting rod bolt that's in the tool currently. It goes in the rod, so you can see there's there's ultra torque on there, ARP ultra torque, but I'll put more on there before I put them in. But so anyways, that's what I'm doing. I'm charting all my charting all my rod bolts on the chart, and then once I get that done, I'm going to show you guys how to put it into the block. Okay. Alrighty. I'll see you soon. Hello, this is John again. I want to show you something about this rod stretch gauge that you guys should know. Anyways, when you're doing these rod bolts here, I'm going to try to show it to you. And you look at that and see, if I just move this around a little bit, you'll see that this kind of bounces all over the place depending on where you have it. Now, when you're using this rod bolt stretch gauge, the proper way to use it is you take the smallest number, and that's what you're using. You're always using the smallest number. So I roll around until I get the very smallest number on this rod stretch gauge, and that's the proper measurement. Is you'd always take the smallest you can find. Anyway, so there's these are all my rods: 1 and 5, 2 and 6, 3 and 7, 4 and 8. So this is what I got before I torque it on rod 1, before I torque it on rod 5. So that's the before measurements, and then when I torque it down, then I'll write in what it is after I torque it in the motor, and hopefully I anywhere between 5 and 7, exactly what the Carrillo sheet says here. The sheet that came with the connecting rods. All right. Here's the build sheet, and you look up your. We know that I got 3/8 SBS car bolts. I look on it and it says 5 to 7. Recommended stretch, 65 foot-pounds. Okay, do not exceed 65 foot-pounds. So I'm going to run it right at 65 foot-pounds and see what I got for stretch. Anyway, so that's what's happening. I'll when I set up the to put the pistons into the block, I will show you guys how I do it. Okay. See you soon. Hello, this is John again from Poor Man's Garage. I'm going to try to show you as best I can how I put the pistons into the block. Okay, here we go. So hopefully you can see that piston. Okay. So this is you got to make sure that the rings are in the right location. And looks good. Transmission fluid has to go on the side of the piston. Transmission fluid. Okay. It's got BR30 on the bearing. The crankshaft has got BR30 on the crankshaft. It's got BR30 here. I have this is marked out, and it's got the one that's marked out. The bolt with the dot goes on the one that's marked out. Let's see the dot, so you don't mix them up. Okay, so the ring compressor has to go in a certain location. This basically has to line up to the pin. I also have a mark on here, see the white mark, so that I know that's which groove that it's got to go into. So, piston. Rings are right. Has to be flipped the right way. And then I got a piece of glass here too, so that when I compress the rings, it doesn't grab the rag and suck the rag into the rings. So then I just hook it up to the one that I got the white mark on. Make sure the ring compressor's where I want it to be at. Gotta be there. And then I make sure it's flat. I lock it down. Just like that. Lock it down. So then, just make sure the ring compressor just moves a little bit. The ring compressor moves a little bit. Means the piston's free enough to be pushed into the block. You want them tight. You don't want it tight enough where you have a hard time. You have to beat it into the block. You don't want to do that. You don't want to be beating anything on the block. So anyway, see if I can show you the block now. Here's the block. So it's got a number 6 there. Here, number 6 with an arrow. The arrow's got to always point to the front of the block. Bearings in correctly. Bearing looks good. Okay, so I'm just going to slide this in the bore. Nice and easy there. Just like that. Make sure your piston's nice and straight in the block. Gotta be straight. Alright, so I'm just going to tap it. Got me a rubber mallet, and it's got a wooden handle on it. So I'm just going to tap this, and I'm going to hold on to the ring compressor and tap it. And if it's too tight, if it's too hard, I'm going to basically if it's too hard going in, which feels pretty hard going in. So if it's too hard going in, see that there's a bolt here, and all I got to do is loosen up the bolt just a little bit. And what that does is it loosens the tension on the piston without unlocking it. That felt a little too hard going in, so I just loosened it up again. Let's see what it feels like now. Okay. See what it feels like as it going in. It feels better or not. Feels okay. And that's it. Feels okay. Feels good. So now once the piston's in there, I like to make sure the piston moves inside the bore, which it does. It moves. I can move it. It means my rings are moving inside the piston. Okay, that's good. That feels good. So now I just kind of feel where my connecting rod is under the motor. You know, feel where the connecting rod is, and then I look and I make sure that the number 2 connecting rod's all the way over this way to make room for number 6. Number 6 is going to go on this side, 2 on that side. So I make sure that the number 2 is all the way over to give me as much room for 6 to go in. So then I'll just grab the bottom of the rod, kind of look where the journal is, and all I do is give the piston a little push and kind of guide it with my fingers. That's it, she's home. So that's all there is to it. And then I put the connecting rod cap on. So I'll spin the block over. Make sure my bearings looks good, looks right. Make sure my bearings even. Although it's going to even itself up once I put the rod cap on, but make sure my bearings even. Bearings even here. And so the radius, I know the radius of the cap goes to the radius of the crankshaft. So just like that. Go and stick a ratchet. I said I got to take each one of these bolts apart and put the ARP ultra torque on it. Make sure it's got plenty enough. So anyways, like I said, I don't tighten down my rod bolts right now because I got to lock them up with feeler gauges before I can torque down rod bolts. There has to be feeler gauges that go in between the connecting rods. One feeler gauge on one side, one feeler gauge on the other side. So what happens is as you put pressure on the connecting rod, it tweaks the bearings. And I spent all that time. Okay, so I got play in there, you hear it? I play. You always want to hear that. I spent all that time getting the rod bearings in the main. The rod bearing clearance is just where I want them. And if I don't put a feeler gauge in between them to lock the connecting rods to the crankshaft radius, what I'm doing is I'm putting pressure on the rod bearings and I'm tweaking the rod bearings. And anyways, you don't want to do that. Okay, so until next time. See you soon. Hello again, this is John from Poor Man's Garage. All 8 pistons are in. I had to pull 2 of the pistons out because the rings, even though the piston slides down inside the bores, the rings weren't right. Meaning not really offset, but what happens is when you put the piston in, you got to make sure you're able to rock that piston. Right? It should rock. I don't know why it should rock is because the ring should be free inside of it. Well, 2 of the pistons wouldn't rock, so I had to come back out, reset the rings, put them back in, then they rocked. Yeah, I had another piston I had to do the same thing to. So let me show you exactly what I'm talking about, and so that you know, you guys got to be aware of all this stuff. So, all right. So here's a look at it. Remember how I was telling you that even though the arrows are pointing wrong on the pistons, when I get done with it, all the arrows will be pointing to the front of the block. Okay, so See, I can roll the piston. I can roll this motor over by hand just by grabbing a hold of the harmonic balancer. That's, you know, if the motor's bound up, you'll know it. You won't be able to roll the motor over with your hand. You'll have to put a wrench on it. So start with number 5. So this is what I mean by rocking back and forth. Hear that? That piston should be able to rock. So then you go to number 6. Same thing. Yeah. If it doesn't rock like that, the rings, even though you got it, you got the piston and the bore, the rings aren't right. So this number 7 wouldn't move at all. So I had to pop it out. Reset the oil rings, use the oil rings, and put it back in, and now it rocks. So number 8 was the same way. Number 8 wouldn't rock. Oh. Should move side to side this way and this way. Alright. There's number 2. Hey. Same thing. Number 1. See, it's a big, moves no problem. Check number 3. Number 4's up. Okay. Number 3. Okay, so we know the rings are loose where they're supposed to be able to move around. The rings are loose. So now probably everybody's going to say, what's the next thing to put in? Well, normally I'd say the camshaft, but it is not the camshaft you're going to put in next. It's the distributor. Okay, what you're going to do is all distributors come with cast iron gears. They do this because if they all came with brass distributor gears, they wouldn't be able to sell you any camshafts because your camshaft wouldn't get eaten up by the cast iron distributor gear, which they put on there for that reason. Is if they can't sell you camshafts, they can't make any money off you. So anyways, the next thing to do is going to be the distributor. So you're going to put the distributor in the motor, and then you're going to take a feeler gauge and you're going to check. This is before you put the brass gear on. You got your cast iron gear on your distributor. You're going to put the distributor in, and then you're going to lock it down, and then you're going to take a feeler gauge and you're going to put a feeler gauge in here. Okay, you're going to see how much room you got between that the cast iron gear and the bottom of the block. Okay, and I'm going to explain more to you exactly how we're going to do this tomorrow. It's 12:30 now, so I'm kind of tired of working on this thing, but I wanted to get this far, and I didn't even torque the connecting rods down. So, but I'm going to explain you more exactly how we're going to set that distributor gear, and we'll get into more detail on exactly how we're going to do that, and it's not like how they show on TV. So I'll see you tomorrow. Hello again, it's John from Poor Man's Garage. Before we get to talking about the distributor and distributor gears and what to run and what not to run, and we got to tighten down the rod bolts, which means I got to put ARP ultra torque on the rod bolts. The feeler gauges has to go in between the connecting rods, and then I'm going to torque them down. So this is what I'm talking about with the feeler gauges. So see, there's my feeler gauges. There's one on this side. This is 28 thousandths. You want these feeler gauges as tight as you can get it. So these bolts are loose now. This bolt's loose. All these bolts are loose. Okay, I got a 28 thousandths feeler gauge on this side. If you see, I got a 28 thousandths feeler gauge on this side. Okay, so there's 2 feeler gauges. So one here, one here. You got this one just fell out, but you got to get it in as tight as you can. So you got to find the one that's gonna fit. So I might have to go to a. I'm gonna go try a 29. 29 on this side, but I got to take out all the bolts, put ARP Ultra Torque on it. Anyways, I'm gonna try to get it so you can see kind of what I'm doing. Hopefully. So once again, I'm going to go with the bigger feeler gauge on this side because that one just fell out. So I'm going to try a little bit bigger one. Let's see if I can't get it to fit tighter between the rods. Let's try this one. This one don't even want to go. So that's the next size down. So I think we're kind of stuck with a 28. Because that one doesn't even want to go in between the rods. So I have a feeling that this is the one that's, yeah, that one fits. So once I start torquing down on the connecting rods, it's gonna kind of lock in anyway. So I just don't want to tweak the bearings, so that's the way it's got to be. But the other one doesn't even want to start, so this one's a little bit snug, but not as snug as I like it. So anyway, so you gotta take the rod bolts out one at a time. The Ultra Torque on them. That's kind of where I'm at right now. So once again, I put it on the treads. And I put it on the head of the bolt. Back in. This stuff is messy, so get yourself a rag. It is, and it's not good to get on the bearings, so that's kind of why I'm doing it now. I don't think it's good for the bearings, so I just screw it back in. Take the next one out. Say, make sure you don't mix up your bolts. Ultra Torque threads. The head of the bolt. Underneath the head of the bolt. Screw it back in. There's one, now I do the same thing with 5. Bolt out. Make sure you get the threads. And underneath the head of the bolt. Back in the rod. Okay. So. So I got my feeler gauge here. Just for the fun of it, I'm gonna see if I can't get that 29 to fit in there again. Or something a little tighter. Almost close. Not quite. Not quite. So I'm stuck with that 28. Okay, so I got both feeler gauges. Well, almost got both feeler gauges in here. Try to get the feeler gauge so that it's not in the way of you torquing the connecting rods, because if it's in the way, it's going to be a big pain in the butt. So I try to get it where it's not going to be in the way going back and forth. Okay, so anyways, got the feeler gauges in there, connecting rods are locked up. So then, I know I'm going to 65 foot-pounds, so I'm going to start with 10. So I'm going to go 10. Now I'm going to start with 5. There's 5. Now on the side I'll go to 10. This side I'll go to 15. I'll go to 20. Or 25. 30. Feeler gauges are still in there. 55. 40. 45. 50. 55. 60. 65's max. Make sure I hit that 65 right on the line. It's 65. 65. And I'll check it one more time here. 65. 65. Okay. 5's torqued down, feeler gauges are still in. So now we're going to do the same thing with the 1. So we're going to go to, I want to start out with 5. There's 5. There's 10. There's 15. 20. No, I'll be doing increments of 5. 25. 30. 35. 40. 45. 50. 55. 60. Or 65 as far as we go. 65, I'm a little shaky. 65. Now make sure it's right at 65, not further, not past. You make sure that the bolt doesn't move. If the bolt keeps moving, you keep going. The bolt has to stop. Okay, feeler gauges are still locked in. More torque down to 65 foot-pounds. So, eventually I have to go back and we check everything with the rod stretch gauge. I showed you the rod stretch gauge earlier, so all the bolts will all be checked with the rod stretch gauge. Make sure that I'm not over where it says it's supposed to be at, between 5 and 7. So if I'm at 8, I'm in trouble. The feeler gauges come out. Hopefully the feeler gauges come out. Feeler gauges come out, and then make sure we still got the play in there. We got the play in there. So now the feeler gauge is locked in the connecting rod, so I know that I didn't twist the connecting rods like that, because that's what you're doing when you're torquing up the connecting rods, that you're twisting it, and what you're doing is you're tweaking the rod bearings. Because I had the feeler gauges in between there, I locked up the connecting rod bearings to the outside of the crankshaft, so that when I torqued it down, I know that I didn't tweak any of my connecting rod bearings. Anyway, so that was 2 rods. I got 6 more to do. And then I also got to do all my stretch readings, so I'm not going to bore you guys with that, because that's going to take a long time. All this stuff takes time. So, but I just wanted to show you one on how I do it, and then once we get to the distributor, I'll show you guys exactly how to do that. Meanwhile, I'll see you soon.